Now this is the clause on confidentiality. And the reason why you would
Mhm.
have this clause in your contract is to protect you and your company from clients stealing all of your
Mhm.
documents for the use of possibly owning or opening their own wedding planning company
Mhm.
in the future. You don't want them to use all of your existing contract, your checklists, and all of the stuff that you've shared with them, and them thinking, oh, this was so much fun, I now should be a wedding planner, and then they steal all of your documents so that they don't have to
Mhm.
come up with anything on their own. That you really want to make sure that you're protecting all of your trade
Mhm.
secrets and everything that you shared with them throughout the planning process. And the way that you do that is having a clause in there that talks about that confidentiality. And here's what it should say: the consultant
Okay.
owns, possesses, or controls certain trade secrets and other proprietary and confidential information acquired through the expenditure of time, effort, and money, including but not limited to planning documents, instructional documents,
Mhm.
timelines, schematics, checklists, vendor information, and the terms of this agreement, including pricing, herein collectively confidential information.
Mhm.
The clients agree to use all best efforts to protect the consultant's interest in regards to such confidential information and
Mhm.
keep it strictly confidential. This includes a covenant to not directly or indirectly disclose, allow access to, transmit, or transfer the confidential information
Mhm.
to any third party, including but not limited to online forms, without the consultant forums, excuse me,
Mhm.
without the consultant's prior written consent
Mhm.
or as may be required by law. This one is not negotiable either.
Mhm.
The next clause that I feel really needs to be in your contract has to do with restrictions that your venue might have or your wedding officiants might
Mhm.
have. There are certain rules that they are going to have enforced that you cannot try to convince them otherwise. But you're going to have clients that say, no, do it anyway. Do this and this behind the venue's back, or make the wedding officiant do this wedding. We can't do those types of things. And so this clause is going to help you with that. And what it would say is the consultant and its agents, employees, and contractors, as well as vendors hired by the clients, may be limited to guidelines or rules of the venue management or
Mhm.
wedding officiant. The clients understand and agree that the consultant will abide by such guidelines or rules, and that such rules are outside of the control of the consultant.
Mhm.
Negotiation with respect to modifying the guidelines and restrictions is in the sole responsibility of the clients, and the clients agree to hold
Mhm.
the consultant harmless and defend the consultant for the impact such guidelines or rules may have on the wedding and event. So that one's not
That's cool.
negotiable. Now, this next clause I feel is really important, and it outlines what our clients' responsibilities are going to be so that we can do our job effectively. Now, this clause is a bit long. It really does cover a lot, but I feel like it's all extremely important. So, what I'd like to do here is cover what we would be talking about and what your contract
Enjoy it.
should be saying. And that way, you can explain to your clients why these
Oh, flow.
particular clauses are in here and what we need from our clients in order for us to even be able to do our own job. So
Okay.
here's the wording that I would be using. It's the client shall provide the consultant with copies of all the contract information, the proposals, and contract agreements with all hired vendors in a timely manner and
Mhm.
and under no circumstances less than 4 weeks prior to the wedding date. You may want to change
Mhm.
this. You might rather have, and this is how it would state in my contract.
Mhm.
My contract was a little bit more strict. It said that as they sign the contracts, that they would have to get me a copy of it within 2 weeks of each
Mhm.
contract being signed. And then it said under no circumstances less than 4 weeks prior to the wedding date. The next
Mhm.
bullet point under this particular clause says the client shall promptly notify the consultant of any changes to vendors, schedules, locations, or other wedding and event details in a timely manner. The consultant shall not be responsible for any issues resulting from the client's failure to notify the consultant of any such changes. We have all had clients in the past who have
Oh
changed
God.
things last minute or
Mhm.
made a really terrible decision, and we are saying in this particular clause that you have to tell us ahead of time, and I need to be able to make some decisions and be able to have some notice. The next bullet point under this clause states that the clients understand that failure to heed the consultant's recommendations and advice may have an adverse impact on the wedding and event for which the consultant should bear no, that would be zero, responsibility or liability. The next bullet point under this clause states the clients shall promptly communicate with the consultant in order to facilitate the planning process, and the clients understand that communication delays may have an adverse impact on the wedding and event, such as lost opportunities with respect to venues and vendors, rush fees, late fees, and additional staffing needs due to a shortage of time, for which the consultant shall bear no responsibility or liability. The next bullet point says the consultant shall perform the services in a professional manner and endeavor to plan and execute a successful event for the clients. But the clients understand and agree that weddings are fast-moving and often unpredictable, with unexpected circumstances that may arise during the course of the planning process and or on the wedding date. And the consultant cannot offer refunds following the occurrence of such circumstances. Now, the only situation here is your client might say to you, well, but what if it's your fault? Then you need to, of course, be very clear. If it's my fault and I've caused something, I'm going to, take full responsibility for that particular situation. The next bullet point here. The clients understand and agree to comply with the consultant's schedule and meeting policies. And that's where you're going to talk about your business hours and what days you're willing to have phone conversations or meetings with your clients. So in this, just to be able to fill in space here, we put in 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. And in parentheses it says, meetings shall be scheduled at a minimum of 72 hours prior to the requested meeting time, and no meetings shall be held on Saturdays or Sundays unless authorized by the consultant. Now, the reason why we have that is because many times you have clients who say, but I work Monday through Friday, and I can only meet with you on Saturdays. And Sundays, of course, we are dead to the world, because if we did a wedding on Saturday, we can't even walk straight. So on Saturdays, if we have an event, there's no way that we can meet with any of our other clients. So we need to make sure that we're making it very, very clear to our clients why we have this policy in place. The next bullet point under this clause says that the client shall provide a meal on the wedding date for each member of the consultant staff with a maximum number of X amount of people. So if it's just going to be you and one other person, then that's what you're going to put in there. You might even want to put like an extra little verbiage in here that states that if their guest count goes up and you needed additional assistance, that a meal is provided for each assistant that is going to be at the wedding during the time of the actual dinner being served. And maybe you can even add any of the assistants who have been there for more than 4 hours, because that's the general rule of thumb when serving a meal or having the clients provide a meal to a wedding professional, is if that wedding professional has been at that wedding, working that wedding for more than 4 hours and is also there during dinner time. So that's really important that you kind of have your assistants fall into that same category. Now, the next bullet point under this particular clause states, the client agrees that in the event that the consultant determines in the consultant's sole discretion that the client's family, the wedding guests, or the clients or the vendors at the wedding isn't following the governing laws and or CDC guidelines, that the consultant's agents, contractors, or employees shall be entitled to terminate the service and, if on the wedding date, leave the wedding. And in such a situation, the clients expressly agree to release and hold the consultant and its agents, contractors, and employees harmless and defend from any and all liability as a result of any resulting incomplete wedding and event coordination package. And the clients agree that all payments tendered up to the point of termination shall be retained by the consultant. So this is definitely an added clause into our contract. I wanted to make sure that with the new rules of engagement nowadays, after the COVID-19 pandemic kind of swept the United States, our wedding planners, you as a master certified wedding planner, have the right to safety. And if you feel very strongly about, wearing your personal protective equipment, and you have been assured that everybody at the wedding is going to be wearing that protective equipment, and then you arrive and it's not happening, then you should have the right to protect yourself and possibly leave. Now, other rules have, that have fallen, other situations and circumstances that have fallen into this particular clause is some wedding planners have found the wedding party doing drugs in the bathroom or doing something that's unlawful that could result in the wedding planner being in trouble simply for being on the premises. Now, if you are in a situation like that, you should have every right to leave. The next bullet point under this clause states that the clients agree that in the event that the consultant determines, in the consultant's sole discretion, that the consultant has suffered any inappropriate behavior by the client's family, the wedding guests, or the clients themselves, or the client's vendors during the wedding and event planning process or on the wedding date, which rises to the level of harassment, whether physical or verbal, toward the consultant or the consultant's agents, contractors, or employees, the following steps will be taken. On the first offense, a verbal warning will be issued to clients. On the second offense, the offending party, if it's a wedding guest, will be required to leave the wedding and event. Or, if the offending party is an individual client or both of the clients, the consultant shall be entitled to terminate the services and, if it's on the wedding date, leave the wedding. And in such a situation, the clients expressly agree to release and hold the consultant and its agents, contractors, and employees harmless and defend from any and all liability as a result of any resulting incomplete wedding and event planning package. And the clients agree that all payments tendered up to the point of termination shall be retained by the consultant. You have to protect yourselves. This is why we have these things in here. And by the way, this one is also not negotiable. The next bullet point under this clause states that the clients shall be financially responsible for and reimbursed to the consultant any and all costs, damages, and expenses, including without limitation attorney's fees and associated costs, due to damage to any of the consultant's equipment or materials caused by the clients or any of their wedding guests. The next bullet point states that the clients acknowledge and agree that the consultant is not responsible for monitoring the consumption of alcohol by the clients or the wedding guests, and the clients shall indemnify the consultant for any alcohol-related third-party claims against the consultant. It is the client's responsibility to ensure that a properly licensed and trained bartender is responsible for serving all of the alcohol in accordance with all applicable laws. If you don't have this clause in here, you could possibly be sued if underage drinkers or someone overdrank, hurt someone or hurt themselves. So we want to make sure that we are making it very clear that we are not responsible for babysitting any of the people at that wedding. The next bullet point says, it is the client's responsibility to inform the wedding and event guests of any food, favors, or welcome bag items that may present food allergy concerns or choking hazards for small children. The clients acknowledge and agree that the consultant is not responsible for warning any wedding guests about these risks, and the clients shall indemnify and defend the consultant for any resulting claims against the consultant. So, think about how much food is served at weddings and the wedding cake that is being served. Think about the party favors and food that is given in the welcome baskets. You should not be responsible for anyone having any reactions or anything adversely happening to any of the guests that are receiving any of that food. So we definitely want to make sure that our clients know that this is also a non-negotiable. The next and final bullet point in this section is if the client's assigned consultant should become materially or physically incapacitated, such as due to an injury or severe illness or unexpected circumstances prohibiting the consultant from performing the services under this agreement for any reason, the consultant shall be entitled to provide the client with a substitute planner or coordinator of reasonably similar experience. In the unlikely scenario that such a situation does occur and a suitable replacement is not found by the consultant, or should the clients reject the proposed replacement, the clients agree that the maximum remedy shall be a prorated portion of the fees paid by the clients prior to the date of the occurrence of incapacitation, based upon the extent of the services rendered prior to incapacitation. So this is kind of where things are going to get a little dicey, and that you need to be as reasonable as you possibly can. I want you to always put yourself in the position of your clients in regards to this particular bullet point, because if you were told that as you're planning your own wedding, your consultant got sick or cannot perform the service, you want to make sure that your wedding planner is going to find someone suitable. But if they found somebody and you don't feel like you mesh with them, or you don't think that their qualifications are as good and not exactly what you paid for, you want to make sure that you can get some of that money back so that you can put it towards someone who you feel would represent your wedding, professionally and to the best of their abilities. So please make sure that you are seeing all of these points and these clauses through the eyes of your clients as well as your own. But there are certain ones that are just not negotiable, and I will help you explain in one of our next sections on mastering the booking and onboarding experience. I'm going to help you explain how to explain these things to your clients. Now that concludes part 2 of the legalese of your contract. We will get started with part 3 here in the next video.